Hi YouTube, it's Kia of Kia Comments and I'm back with another video. Today I'm doing my August reading wrap-up and I'm just going to jump right into it. The first book I'm going to discuss is The Art of Feilding by Chad Harbach. This book follows a baseball prodigy who plays shortstop as individuals interested in the sport of baseball, specifically college baseball, watches to see whether or not he is going to break the record for most precise plays on the field. This book also covers the themes of what it is like to develop in the public eye, what it is like to grow into the expectation of others, what it is like maybe not to meet certain expectations, and relationships between young friends and relationship between mentors and mentees. I really liked this book, and it's something that, though I didn't love, I think is a good idea to pick up if it's at your local library. The next book I read this month is Lila by Marilynne Robinson, and it is the third book in the Gilead series. Gilead was told in the voice of John Ames, a reverend of the town, writing letters to his young son. And Home, the second book in the series, revolves around the family of the other reverend in the town. And now Lila, told from the perspective of Lila, is a revelation of where the wife of John Ames, the protagonist of the first book, comes from. This book, I would say, is a book of rumination and quiet epiphanies, which is similar to the first two books in the series. However, the fact that this book is told completely from the perspective of Lila, who comes from a very disparate background in relation to the protagonists of the first two novels, breathes kind of a fresh life into the novels in this trilogy. I really enjoyed this novel. I have to say it wasn't my favorite of the trilogies. My favorite is the first one, Gilead, but it definitely completed the trilogies in a way that I found satisfying. The third book I read this month, The Bellwether Revivals by Benjamin Wood, was wonderful. This book kind of encapsulates the first books that I talked about, in that we follow a student in university and we get a close look at ideas of religion. This book is following Oscar, a 20-year-old student at the University of Cambridge who is passing King's Chapel and is drawn in by the music being played by the organist there. While Oscar is in the chapel, he meets Iris, who is the sister of the organist Eden. What ensues then is Oscar being drawn into a circle of friends, the flock, for lack of a better term, of this particular congregation, and their ideas about religion, about hope, and Eden in particular, the organist's feelings that music has the power to heal and hypnotize, and that he is a medium for this. This was an incredibly intriguing book. I was deeply compelled, and I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I found the characters were extremely well wrought. The sentences were tight and vibrant. Just such an outstanding, surprising read. Next up is the graphic novel Scalped, written by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guera. This book follows the Oglala Lakota tribe in modern-day South Dakota as they deal with organized crime, drug use, cultural identity on their Indian reservation. I think that this series, which is a 60-issue series, is excellently done and actually lends itself to cinema. I'm hoping that somebody picks it up and does a series on it. I think that it's been optioned, but nothing has come of it yet. And it's something that I recommend to anybody who wants to know what it is like for Indians, Native Americans in America today. It is extremely political, but not obnoxiously so. The characters are well rendered. The plot is beautifully wrought. And I'm so happy that I was exposed to this. Shout out to my coworker Jesse and his wife Danielle for putting me up on game with excellent graphic novels to read. The next book is a collection of short stories written by Edna O'Brien, and it is called The Love Object. This book is an accumulation or an accrual of Edna O'Brien's short stories throughout her career. Edna O'Brien is an Irish writer who writes on the themes of what it is like to be a woman, what it's like to be a woman in male-dominated society, what it is like to be a woman in love with women, what it's like to be a mistress, what it's like to be a wife in a household where that is all you're meant to be. She ostensibly lends a voice to every single kind of woman, and she does so with elegance and eloquence. And I loved this collection. Her characters, my God, this woman is a study in what it is to write a phenomenal character. And she does something that I think is quite subversive. Not only does she look at male-dominated societies and say, this is what male-dominated societies do to women, but she looks at women within these societies and says to women, this is what you are doing to each other. I found this book something that was worth the investment. I bought it. I know that this book is going to be something that I read annually, and I would strongly encourage anybody who is interested in reading the body of works of a writer who writes towards themes. I would encourage anybody to look at this particular book. Finally, in the month of August, I read Our Souls at Night by Kent Haruf. Kent Haruf sadly died, and this book was published posthumously, and I'm so glad it was. This book is a gem of a book. We follow Addie and Lewis, 70-year-old divorcees. Both their significant others have died, who come together and lay in bed at night and talk to one another. Addie approaches Lewis and says, I'm lonely. I'm lonely, and I think you might be lonely too. And you're my neighbor, and I think you're a good man. And what would you say to coming over in the evenings and spending the nights with me? And what ensues is a very spare and bittersweet and eloquent novel that ruminates on what it's like to be older and to develop a relationship and fall in love. It is very beautiful. This book took me by surprise, and along with Edna O'Brien's The Love Object, was the best book that I read in the past 3 months. This book is for anybody who likes Marilynne Robinson's Gilead trilogy. This book is for anybody who likes the works of Alice Munro. This book is for anybody who likes the works of Kent Haruf, who is a master of writing about small instances and affecting readers with how important small instances are in the lives of others. The last two books, The Love Object and Our Souls at Night, are beautifully done and spend time on characters that I think the literary world right now doesn't necessarily discuss enough, and that is the characters of aging individuals and the characters of women and how women affect women in male-dominated societies. So that is it. That's all. Please like this video. If you found any of the books interesting that I discussed, rate, comment, subscribe. Keep reading, keep writing, keep reviewing. Bye now. The next book